Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to League Racing TV here for another social race for the Nations E-League. My name is Michael Edwards, going to be taking you through the action, and ladies and gentlemen, it is the first race on League Racing TV for F1 25. Yes, we are in a brand new game cycle. A lot of new questions to be asked of the drivers now, and a lot of answers we will get for sure as the game cycle unfolds. Who will be able to adapt to the new game quicker than others? Will it take a bit of a learning curve for some of the drivers who were very good on the previous game cycle? Will they be able to adapt quickly? Will it take time? Who will know? Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the British Grand Prix as we head around the Silverstone circuit. Unfortunately, no track map this time. Unfortunately, a lot of things had to be removed off my PC a few weeks ago, and yeah, I think one of them, the track maps were amongst those that got removed. But don't worry, we will be getting the track map sorted for next time. But let's have a look at the driver lineup for this evening's races for the Silverstone Grand Prix. As for Team UK, we have Scott Holmes, Cameron Dowds, Tom Roberts, and Jensen Rosen. As it's going to be very interesting to see how Team GB do around their home circuit. Team Brazil, Gabriel Quintino, and Gabriel Pinto, Syra, and of course Davi. Now this is gonna really, like, these names by ear are really gonna test my pronunciation skills. But Aranarelli, let me know if I've done that correctly. Aranarelli, let me know. I don't know if I've got that correct, but we will find out. Obviously the Czechia team of Wojtek Steg, Jan Zurdek, Michael Kolza, and of course Dennis Kamzinski. Let me know if I've absolutely butchered them. I probably have, guys. When it comes to names, it is never really something that I ever really get right, especially when it comes to very difficult names to pronounce. My Welsh accent really does not help with it either. For Team France, Enzo Sabaton, Zain Dain, Hajad, Mustache, and of course Hugo Fontbon. And of course for Team Poland, we have Marcel Beiger, Powers. Of course, we have Marcel Pabst and Hamza going to be taking us through everything here tonight for Team Poland. 5 very, very good nations, a lot of good drivers as well. Some we are familiar with from previous seasons here in on League Racing TV, whether it be for the Esports Masters League or the European Esports Championship, as it was for some of these drivers a few seasons ago. Honestly, qualifying just about getting underway, and ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to be seeing here in qualifying as we head out to the action out on track. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is raining here in Silverstone. Can you believe it? The British weather has come through and has plagued us once again, but it is raining. Very British-esque, I will say. But we're going to stay on board with Enzo as he comes through Stowe corner. A lot of differences I have come across in terms of how the game does kind of function. It does seem that following a car now is a lot trickier than what it used to be on previous game cycles, where the dirty air effect will really hinder you more than previous games. So let's hope and see. Oh, it's Enzo there. Gets a big snap on the exit of Abby, and that is not good for him. Heartbreak there for Enzo. But let's have a look and see who else do we have on a lap. Hamza is on a set of the full wet compound tyres. Maybe it is full wet conditions. Gabriel Pinto, who is of course being supported in the chat by Arthur, cheering for big Gabriel Pinto and Brazil. And of course Brazil looking to do well here in Silverstone as Gabriel Pinto comes through Luffield and now through Woodcut, heading down the Old National pit straight into Cobb's Corner, trying to not drift out too far wide, and that little snap, you saw it there in the wet conditions. We head now into Maggots, now in towards Beckett's, as we try to look for the best launch possible through Chapel onto the Hangar Straight, where normally you would have DRS wide open on the run down in towards Stowe, but no DRS in the wet conditions. It's all maybe about picking your braking zone, as Gabriel Pinto does pick his braking zone. Little correction there on the wheel as he comes through Stowe, which definitely would have lost him a little bit of time. A little bit of a rear end lock up there for the Brazilian coming through the club section around the final corner, and is going to be a 42.4, only marginally ahead of Hamza there in P2, which is very interesting that the wets and the inters are very equal in terms of pace right now. Very, very interesting. As Enzo Sabaton unfortunately has invalidated. Here comes Jensen though for Team GB as he crosses the line. 41.6 for the Brit. And of course, let's have a little look at these liveries. Of course, the British livery, of course, the blue, white, and red. Shining through right there. Scott Holmes improving, so it's a UK 1-2 right now. Obviously the French team there with a lovely livery representing the colours of the French national flag as well. The Brazilians with the fantastic yellow and green livery, of course, representing the flag of the Brazilians. And of course we have the Polish lads as Dennis Kemsky and Gabriel Quintino both improve on the lap times of the Brits, and now knocked both of the Brits along with Vostek, who comes through in third place. They knocked the Brits down to 4th and 5th respectfully. Of course, the Polish car right there with the red and white, and then of course the Czech livery right there. Absolutely fantastic liveries from all the drivers as far as we got our first lap times coming in thick and fast. As we are going to go on board with let's go on board with Enzo as he comes through the Vale chicane now. Big lock up and the braking for Enzo, but he's going to come to the line. Enzo Sabaton, and it's a 40.8, puts himself up in the P5 right now. So while at the start of the session it did look like there wasn't much difference between the intermediates and the wet tyres, it definitely seems that the inters are the tyre to be on. So you're going to expect Gabriel Pedro, obviously Powers, to be on a set of intermediates and not on the set of the full wet compound of tyre. Of course, the best lap times that have come through so far on each individual tyre. Obviously, Hamza on the set of the wets done his lap time. Powers on the set of the wets done in his lap time, and of course Gabriel Pedro putting on the wets as well. Everyone else set a lap time on the intermediate compound tyres, where of course lap times are definitely looking like they need to be in the intermediates. The green wall tyres are the tyres of choice for right now. As Michael Kulzella has just popped up onto a provisional poll. I do apologize for my pronunciations of you guys' names. Honestly, you guys will have to like phonetically let me know how to say it so I can actually work on getting the pronunciations and that absolutely spot on for you guys. So just let me know phonetically how to pronounce some of these names, of course. But Watch Tech coming through the middle sector, 1.2 up in the middle sector split. Jensen there for the UK improving, as does Scott Holmes. Once again, a British one too, as we're on board with the Czech as we come down into the Vale chicane. Big lock up at the rear tyres again for Wojtek as he comes through the line. Will it be an improvement on P8? Will it be provisional pole? It will be provisional pole for the time being. It's a 38.9. Lap times are improving here in qualifying, and that to me, guys, makes me think that we may be seeing towards the end of the session, whoever is the last person to start the lap will have the best of the track conditions, because I don't think it's going to go to dries. I don't think it's going to be dries. The rain could get heavier. This could be the best conditions that these guys are going to get the race in. Well, qualifying, I should say. So we got Dennis out there on a out lap right now. Has I believe one of the Polish lads up ahead. Stefan Vasso for Team UK goes himself up into P1. Stephen, I should say. I went for Stefan. Honestly, guys, sometimes my brain doesn't work like that. But yeah, Stephen there up into provisional pole, a 38.7 for him as we come through to the second half of qualifying. There's just over 7.5 minutes to go in the session. Dennis about to gear up on his hot lap, so we're going to see what he can do coming through the final corner. We're going to stay on board with the Chechen for the flying lap as we go through Abbey and into Farm, keeping it all valid. Now in towards Village, breaking down third gear, getting the car rotated, and now into the loop, and of course on a tree as we will be released onto the Wellington Straight, where DRS would be wide open, heading down in towards Brooklands. But of course, in these conditions, no DRS. Breaking down in towards Brooklands, half a second up there for Dennis as we go through Brooklands now in towards left field, trying to keep the car nice and steady, easy on the throttle. Do not want the back end to step out when you're on the exit of left field. Now through Woodcut onto the National Pit Straight, and then of course down into the legendary Cops Corner, where it's all about making sure you don't drift out too far wide like Dennis has just done there. And that is his lap over and done with, just as we were heading into Maggots and Beckett's. We got Gabriel Quintino coming through Maggots and Beckett's right now for the Brazilian team. You're seeing a dry line beginning to form on the racing line. Obviously, it's not going to get the full dry compound tyres, I don't think. I think the rain is still falling just enough to make sure that that does not happen. But the Brazilian now in towards Stowe Corner, fifth gear, getting that car rotated, trying to get good traction on the exit, using a bit of the ERS battery. Now to the Vale chicane, third gear, Scott Holmes improves a 38 flat for him. We're walking the Brazilian of Gabriel Quintino do as he comes to the line. He's going to pop it onto provisional pole. It's a 37.8 from the Brazilian. The Brazilian top the times at the moment, but the Brits are right there just in behind. And of course we got the Czech lad of Wojtek, and then of course the Polish driver in Hamza. Right now, I say the team that is doing the best at the moment is probably the Brits at the moment, with all four of their drivers inside the top 10 here in qualifying thus far. Of course, Cameron Dowds and Jensen there in 9th and 10th, and of course you've got Stephen and Scott up there in 2nd and 3rd. Go on board with the Frenchman of Enzo Tabani as he comes through the Vale chicane. Looks to get a good exit now to the line. He'll come. Will this be up towards the front? It'll be up into P3, so he splits the two Brits, does the Frenchman, and he will be. I'd definitely say he'd be happy with that lap time, but he knows there's probably a bit more out there, especially with the track conditions continuously, seemingly to improve. So it'll be all about who can get out there at the right time and get the best of the conditions. Actually on board right now with Hamza as he comes through the middle sector split, and it is an 8/10 improvement. Not enough currently to put him on pole position, but enough to get him up into P3 ahead of the Frenchman. As we head down in towards Stowe, could be more time to find out in this final sector for the pole. As we run down in towards the pit lane, in fact Hamza there backing out, wanting to get a fresh set of boots on and maybe go again. Meanwhile, his French compatriot, anyway, the French trench driver of Hugo coming through the final corner. Right there in P9 currently, coming through Abbey Farm, now in towards a village. May's putting the British flag in the chat. Of course, is the home race for the British drivers, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the Brits do in comparison to the rest of the field around their home circuit. And I'm not going to lie, it's just going to be interesting to see how everyone's going to adapt to the new game and how it all transpires. Because, of course, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, Dirty Year seems to be a bigger effect on this game than it has been on previous game cycles. So, following a car is not as easy as what it used to be. And some of these corners, if you're following the car, the Dirty Year will just lead to a decent amount of understeer, and that could cost you time. So these guys are going to have to manage that. But we're on board with Hugo now, heading through Maggots and Beckett's. And it is looking nice and smooth right now from the Frenchman. As I believe we just had an improvement come through from Moustache there, going up into P1 for the French team. Hugo 1.3 up in the middle sector as well. So big improvements coming in from the French contingent as the qualifying comes closer and closer to the end of the session, as we got 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining here in qualifying. Moustache right now leads the timings on a 37.3, and Hugo pops himself up into P3. Good lap time from him. Steven coming through the middle sector as he is on the national pitch. I think he's backed up his lap totally, and he's going to be looking to go again. What about Marcel? Marcel to the line. He's just getting his lap underway. So I think we're going to stay on board with Marcel, because I think Marcel will be the first of the fast laps to actually come in. Because of course Steven appears to be on a cool down lap, so we'll come back on board with him at a later point. But look at all that going on in through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. An absolute car park here in Silverstone, as everyone is bunching up and trying to make sure that they give themselves adequate space. But Marcel, the 7 times up in the first sector, fastest of everyone thus far. Herbal first sector, as he'll hope to not get caught out by the car on the exit of left field, as we go through Woodcut now in towards Cobb's Corner. 6th gear, keeping it pinned, stays within the track limits as well. He'll be very happy to stay within the limits there. Coming through against Beckett, and now looking for a good exit out of Chapel. A little bit of a back end slide, but 1.6 up in the middle sector for Marcel Paps as we run down in towards Stowe Corner. The checker flag has fallen here, and it is gonna be Marcel Paps who is gonna be crossing the line. What will this be for the pole? Will it be the Polish driver on pole position as he comes across the line? No, he misses out. P2 there for Marcel Paps, as we look to see who that next car is coming through. Oh my god, an absolute train going on right there in the first sector. But Paulus now to the line. What will he do as he improves? Goes up at the P7. Good lap there from the pole. As we got one of the Brazilian drivers. Is that one of the big heads? Believe it is Davy. See Davy there. Puts it on provisional pole. We just got on board right at the end there with Davy. And he's put on provisional pole, but for how much longer? Mustache up in the middle sector. What will this be for the Frenchman as he comes through the Vale chicane? Will it be pole position for France? Will it be Viva la France in Silverstone? Crossing the line will be Mustache. 7 times improvement, 36.6. A gauntlet has been laid down there for the rest of the drivers. But look at what's going on right now. Heading in towards the Vale chicane. Scott Holmes improves 36.5. The Brit on the top, on the pole position right now, as everyone comes through single file, one by one, crossing the line. Improvements coming through from everyone. Gabriel up to P5, Pedro up to P6. The Brazilians with a 4th, 5th, and 6th place through a qualifying. What a end! I'm surprised we saw so many improvements right there with all these guys so bunched up together on track, and it is not ideal if you are in this kind of train by here in qualifying. It is not ideal. You don't want to be getting all caught out with the dirty air effect of the cars in front. I'm pretty sure we could have seen more improved times coming in, but unfortunately, I think everyone was just a little bunched up towards the end. But we did see improved times coming in from a majority of people. It's a case of how much improvement would have been had without the dirty air from some of these guys. But let's have a look at the rundown here in qualifying as we take you through the results here. It is Scott Holmes for the Brits taking the top step pole position for Team UK, with Mustache for Team France alongside him on the front row. Vostek there in P3 with Davy in P4. Gabriel Quintino in P5 with Gabriel Pedro in P6. Cameron Dowds in P7 with Marcel in P8, Marcel Paps in P9, and Hamza completing the top 10. Outside the top 10, we have Hugo, Enzo Tabani, Paulus, Stephen, Jensen, Michael, Jan, Dennis, Enzo Sabaton, and Gabriel Pinto going to be rounding up the final qualifying position. Guys, we will be back for the 5 red lights in just a moment's time as we take you to this short little break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we are almost getting ready for the session to get underway here for the race at Silverstone, the social race here in the Nations E-League. A quick reminder of the teams here tonight. Of course, I believe Tom Roberts obviously being replaced by Stephen here tonight. So is Scott Holmes, Cameron Dowd, Stephen, and of course Jensen for Team UK, Gabriel Quintino, Gabriel Pinto, Syra, I think, has also been replaced by Pedro for tonight for the Brazilian team, and then of course Davy there in the final Brazilian car, and then of course for the Chechens we have Vostek, Jan, Michael Kulza, and then of course Dennis, Kaminski. And then, of course, for Team France, we have Enzo Sabaton, Moustache, Hugo, and of course we have Enzo replacing Zendine in Team France. And of course for Poland, we have Marcel Biga, Powers, Marcel Paps, and then of course Hamza there in the Polish teams. Jay Wizzy in the chat saying Upper UK, of course, showing support for the Brits around their home circuit. And of course, it is very interesting to see what the Brits are going to do in the race. As honestly, we have Scott Holmes on pole position for Team UK. So the Brits taking pole position at the British Grand Prix. And it is good to see the Brits doing well at Silverstone, but let's not be mistaken. It's one thing to do it in qualifying, a whole nother thing to do it in the race. And of course, we'll be seeing what will happen. 26 laps of the Silverstone circuit await the 20 drivers out there on track, and I can confirm it's looking dry out there right now. But will it stay dry is another question. This is Silverstone. This is the British Grand Prix. It is British weather. Obviously, if this was in Wales, it would already be raining. If it was up in Scotland, maybe it'd be snowing. But for right now, it is overcast in the English countryside in Silverstone, as it is looking like it could be an interesting one in terms of strategy. The sun is creeping through, so maybe it will stay dry throughout the remainder of the race, but there is cloud cover in the sky. Very British-esque, that is for sure, as we're going to head to the action out on track as the drivers are making sure that they get their strategies and everything sorted. I also need to figure out how to get everything sorted as well on PC. But here we go now to those 5 red lights to get us underway here in Silverstone. The 5 red lights are out and we are underway. And it looks like a very good start there for Scott Holmes as he cruises away in towards turn number 1. Watchtech getting the jump on Moustache in behind. As everyone is funneling through, a lot of carnage going on towards the back end of the field, as a little bit of front wing carbon fibre there flying off as the guys funnel through on the run up in towards Brooklands and left field for the first time. A little bit of ghosting going on here on the first lap as the guys are ghosting through one another, and it's helping some, but I guarantee it's putting more off. And there I think Marcel Paps has been put off by it as he has taken a spin. Jean there in P20 looks like he's had trouble at the start as well, as a lot of guys running wide on the exit of Cobbs as we come through Magnussen Beckett. Oh my god, this is not, oh, Jesus, so the ghosting is absolutely causing carnage here in the midfield, and I'm not sure if this is just a lag issue or whether or not they're just ghosting from the start of the race, where everyone got held up slightly and they just started ghosting through each other. But hopefully everything will sort itself out there as we got Enzo Sabaton down the inside of Gabriel Pedro, and Gabriel Pedro could be looking at getting overtaken by Jensen. They're coming through the final corner at Club. Brilliant overtake there from the Brett Hamilton-esque, I would say, from a few years ago, if you guys remember that move there with Lewis Hamilton getting through on the Hamilton straight as well. That was fantastic there from Jensen. Up towards the front though, looks like Moustache has managed to get himself back through ahead of Watchtech, and now we're going to have a look at the strategies here from everyone and make sure that we got everything up for you guys as well, so you can see all of the action. Cameron Dowd and Davy, they're trading positions for P5. Cameron Dowd, the Brit, up into P5 now, trying to chase down Gabriel Quintino, the Brazilian, up in P4. Watchtech, the Chechen, up there in P3. The Czech lad up there in P3, and then of course we have Moustache up there for Team France in P2. Scott Holmes leading the way for Team GB as he looks to try and pull a gap here early on. But DRS is going to help these guys close the gap and bring them back in. Hugo getting through on Hamza. Look at that in behind as Jensen and Enzo Sabaton momentarily side by side, and Enzo Sabaton going off a track massively there. I think maybe a little bit off put. Thought that Jensen was going to be further along the inside than maybe what he would have thought ended up happening. But yeah, unfortunate there for Enzo Sabaton, and that is Marcel Berg into the pitch, retiring from the race. Heartbreak there for the Polish lad. As we're on board with Jensen now coming through the loop and entry. On to the Wellington straight we go with DRS wide open. A little bit of ERS battery, and there's going to be a job done for Jensen as we come through Brooklands and Luffield. Now Jensen has to close the gap up ahead. He's 1 second off the back of Hugo, and that is not going to be good enough to get him DRS. So he needs a good run here through Cop's corner, and he does just about sneak within DRS range. Of course, he is about a second back, so he's not going to be hit with as much dirty air as some of the drivers out in front. Meanwhile, we got Gabriel Quintino closing in on Wojtek for P4. Not going to go for the move this time, going to sit in behind as Scott Holmes able to hold ground at the moment in the race lead ahead of Mustache in second place, who's coming under a little bit of pressure now from Wojtek in behind, who is equally coming under a bit of pressure from Gabriel Quintino. As Enzo Sabaton speeds into the pits, retires from the session, the Frenchman out of this race. Jensen with the fastest lap of the race, and he is on a bit of a charge, currently in P9, but he is broken away from Hamza, who is of course on the set of the hard compound tyres, doing a good job right now in P10 on the hards, but this is going to be very tricky for him to hold on to these guys up ahead as Mookie says go Mustache and Enzo Sabaton. Unfortunately for Enzo Sabaton, he is out of this race, but Mustache right now currently in P2. Gabriel Quintino, the Brazilian, trying to hunt down the back of the Czech driver of Wojtek. Is it going to be the Brazilian driver getting himself up into a podium position? It seems like he just can't get close enough through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel to get the launch that he needs out of Chapel onto the hangar straight. And that is going to be crucial, because you're seeing Mustache, he's struggling to get that launch that he needs to get the move done on Scott Holmes as well. This is going to, in my opinion, it's going to come down to when is the right time to make a pit stop. That is where I think the strategy here for these guys towards the front is going to be crucial. And who paid attention to who their teammate was in the pit lane during qualifying, because that is another thing that these guys are going to have to keep in mind, who their teammates are in the pit lane. Because of course you might be lucky and have two drivers from the same team in the same pit lane with each other, so you're able to coordinate. But if not, let's say Quintino and Cameron Dowds are in the same pit garage and they both pit on the same lap, well, Cameron Dowds is getting absolutely done over in that phase in the pit stops if that was the case. But hopefully it is not the case, as we want to see the action happen out there on track, and of course we want to see the overtakes happen and the strategies play out as best as they can. Cameron Dowds are getting close as we come through Maggots, Beckett and then out in towards Chapel. Will it be a launch that Cameron Dowds needs coming out of Chapel onto the hangar straight? No, it's not. But you're seeing Scott Holmes getting that gap that he needs on Mustache every single time. That Mustache cannot get close enough. But look at this. What a run from Cameron Dowds. He's going to look down the inside in towards the Vale chicane. No, but Quintino there runs a little bit deep, and that might allow Cameron Dowds to have a look in towards turn number 1 as we run down the Lewis Hamilton straight in towards Abbey and now through Farm Is he going to have a look in towards Village? No, he's going to sit in behind. No risky lunges there from Cameron Dowds, as he's going to look to try and get a better exit here onto the Wellington Straight. As we come through the loop and onto the Wellington Straight, it looks like Gabriel Quintino has done what he's needed to hold on to that position for the time being. Moustache getting close to the back of Scott Holmes here for the race lead, so I think Moustache won't be long now until he is going to be putting on the big pressure here for the Brit leading this race. Is he going to break the hearts of all the British fans here at Silverstone? He definitely looks like that is what he's trying to do, with Scott Holmes leading the way. Moustache though closer than he's ever been through Maggots, Beckett's, and he just does not get the run out of Chapel that he needs. But he is closer than he's ever been before. Is it going to be enough for him to get close enough to go for a move? No, it is not. Heartbreak there for Moustache. He just could not get the run out of Chapel that he needed as we go on to lap 7 of 26. Scott Holmes for the Brits leads the way ahead of Moustache for France in second place, and then of course Wojtek there in P3 as we have another retiree. That is Enzo Tabani. As oh my god, it's absolute, what has gone on here? There's been a huge incident that has happened in the middle sector, through turn number 3, and has caused the retirement of multiple drivers. I have no idea what has gone on there. A lot of the drivers appear to be retiring and just being done with it. I think we may be having a restart possibly. Let me quickly double check that real quick, as it appears what's called that we will be having a restart that will be happening in a moment's time. So guys, while we get the restart due to connection host, yeah, Jack, I just went through the Discord, and then I just double checking. But yeah, we will be having a restart. Thank you for that as well, Jack. We will be having a restart, guys. I believe it will be I believe it's going to be a restart with the positions as it was before the big connection issue really like began to happen. We will find out, guys. We will find out in just a moment's time. But please bear with us. We will be back once we get the lobby restarted and back. I'm back underway. Sorry, I almost cut myself off. I did cut myself off. But yeah, we will be back in just a moment's time, guys. Please be please, like, you know, we will be back. We will be back. Bear with us, guys. We will be back in just a moment's time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Appreciate the patience while we get the lobby reset and restarted. Give you a quick rundown of obviously what is going to be happening. Of course, it has been put to the drivers on whether or not they wanted to take the results of when it ended, obviously at lap 7, the positions where you were, or to go back to the qualifying positions. The drivers have voted for the qualifying positions, and they voted for a full restart of the 50% race, and obviously not to opt for a 35% race. So we will be getting back racing, full 26 laps, awaiting all the drivers. The weather, of course, from what has been said is that it was going to remain clear throughout the entire thing. We do have a few drivers that are missing right now. Hopefully, we're able to get them in as soon as possible. They may not may be able unable to race as of now due to the time restraints and everything. Of course, we are now an hour into the stream, and of course we got about 40 minutes of racing still to go. So maybe they are unable to get themselves back involved. But a quick reminder to all the drivers out there to remember their car setups, to remember their strategies of what they wanted to do, and of course, hopefully this time everything will run a lot smoother. Of course, when it came to the connection, it was unfortunate. We saw all the ghosting at the start of the race, which wasn't ideal. I think that caused a lot of issues for several drivers. Marcel Paps being one of them early on, as you remember, spinning out. And then, of course, we saw a big, massive moment where multiple cars retired from the race. And from the point of view of the driver, said it was down to the connection of the lobby, which is not ideal. But we are getting things sorted and getting things redone as we speak. We got 18 of the 20 drivers in the lobby as we look to try and get the remaining two in as well. So who are we missing right now? Who are we missing? That's the question. Let's have a look here. Right, so we got all 4 of Team Brazil in. We got all 4 of Team France in. We've got 3 out of the 4 Brits in. So we need to make sure we get the right Marcel Paps in. I believe we just need to get who have we got? Who are we missing? I believe we are missing from Team UK is it's Scott. Scott being the last one that we are missing, but I think he has got himself into the lobby now, which is a fantastic, guys. So we have all 20 drivers that are gonna be in the lobby, thankfully, and then of course we'll get the grid sorted in the results of qualifying to get ready to go racing again. Once again, I want to quickly say the reminder of all the drivers, if you are engineering for these drivers as well, quickly remind them as also that they must remember their car setups. Do not go into a race with a default setup. Even though default setup on this game, in my opinion, is better than previous games, is still very, very slow compared to a proper race setup. So make sure you guys have a race setup sorted and done right there. It'll be interesting to see if the drivers stick to the same tire strategies that we saw in the opening stages of the first race, and it'll be interesting to see if Scott Holmes is going to get off to the start that we saw at the beginning of the first race, because of course he got off to a fantastic start, got himself up in the race lead, and he held that lead throughout every single lap while we was racing all the way to lap 7. So we're going to see if he's going to be able to maintain that advantage, or if he's going to be having a bit of a start where he bogs down slightly, and that might allow a Mustache to get the jump on him early on. Because of course Mustache got caught out at the start of the first race by, if I remember correctly, who was in P3? I believe it was Vojtek. Yeah, Vojtek managed to get the jump on Mustache in the opening stages, and that allowed a little bit of a gap to be made between Scott and the two in behind us. Those two were squabbling there for P2 on track. But of course, right now we are getting the grid all sorted and lined up. Quick reminder of the qualifying results. Of course, it was Scott Holmes who did take pole position ahead of Mustache in second place. Those two will be on the front row, with Vojtek there in P3 and Davi for Team Brazil in P4. Gabriel Quintino in P5, and of course Gabriel Pedro in P6. So a trio of Brazilians there from 4th down to 6th place. Cameron Dowd in P7 with Marcel Big in P8, and then of course Marcel Paps in P9 with Hamza completing the top 10. Outside of the top 10, we had Hugo there for the French team in P11 with Enzo Tabani in P12 for the French team as well. Then of course we had Powers in P13 with Stephen in 14th place, with Jensen in 15th. And then, of course, we had Michael Kuza in 16th. Jan Serdek in 17th. Honestly, guys, I probably absolutely butchered the name. I do apologize. Then, of course, we got Dennis Kaminsky in P18. Enzo Sabaton in 19th place. And, of course, Gabriel Pinto going to be rounding out the final position on the grid. That is how things ended in qualifying. Obviously, the Brit on the front row on pole position, with the French alongside him. Obviously, renewing the age-old rivalry between the British and the French. Will it be Team GB coming out on top here tonight? Will it be Team France coming out on top? That is the question everyone wants to know, and we're going to find out. We got 26 laps of the Silverstone circuit ahead of us. It does appear that the weather was going to remain dry throughout the entirety of the race. So it will be a dry race. So we do know the weather conditions, and we know what will be happening as we go through the race. Honestly, guys, we will be seeing a lot of action, I think, in this one. Of course, it was very hectic at the start of the previous race due to the ghosting issues. But I think we're going to get a lot more in terms of battling going on at the start of this race now. Hopefully with no ghosting occurring for the drivers, as we are loading into the race right now. Guys, quickly remind you guys to make sure they remember their race setups. Don't forget them. It is important, guys. It's important. Don't forget your setups. As we are going to head to the track right now. Of course, in the pit lane, the drivers making sure they got their race strategies and their race setups selected and sorted for the race. 26 laps of the Silverstone circuit, awaiting the 20 drivers out there on track. It is the Czechs, the Polish, the Brazilians, the French, and the British doing battle here at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the home of British motorsport. Will it be Team GB on the top step? Will it be Viva la France in Silverstone? Will it be the Brazilians charging through and taking a big victory? Will it be the Czech lads coming through, or will it be the Polish lads taking the honours here today? Only one way to find out. 26 laps await, and we will see who is going to come out on top. I'll see Scott Holmes very, very strong in that first opening 7 laps. You got to back him to maybe do it again as we go to those 5 red lights to get us in the way for the second time here in Silverstone. The 5 red lights are out and we are underway here in Silverstone. And it looks like a good start once again from Scott Holmes as we get everything sorted. Tyre compounds, the drivers opting for the same strategies as they had in the previous race. And now we can get ourselves underway good and proper. Look at that, a bit of side-by-side battling going on for P3 between Mustache and Davy as they come through the entry onto the Wellington Straight. As it looks like, oh, look at this. Oh, Cameron Dowd! Cameron Dowd! Sorry, not. I thought Cameron Dowd was caught up in that, but that's Marcel Paps and who's that? Marcel Paps and Pedri, I think, as well. Yeah, virtual safety car deployed here on lap 1. Gabriel Pedro, and Marcel Paps there coming together. Absolute carnage. Jensen's down there for Team GB. Enzo Sabaton is down there as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I thought I saw Cameron Dowd's like caught up in all that, but I guess not. It looks like he has managed to escape it. Thankfully for him, as Hugo in P7 for France. A good start from him as well. So look at the position gains here under the virtual safety car, as it is going to be Hugo up 4, Gabriel Pinto up 7, Gabriel Pedro down 11, and Marcel Paps also down 11. Enzo Sabaton up 1, Jensen down 4, Powers into the pit lane as well, as we're going to see some drivers, of course, making sure that they get their front wings repaired if possible. Virtual safety car is staying up. That is going to help these guys that have to get their wings and everything to change, because of course these guys are staying out on track, have to stick to a delta, and with the DRS now enabled, the delta has been released and these guys are now going to go for it. As you're seeing Marcel going around the outside of Hugo for P7 in this race. Fantastic opportunistic overtake there from the Polish man on the French. Fantastic there, as Hugo not only loses the spot to Marcel, he loses the spot to Enzo Tabini, as well as you've got Cameron Dowd around the outside of Gabriel Quintino at left field, and is not meant to be there for the Brit as he's trying to carve his way through the field. We got Davi and Gabriel Quintino, the Brazilians, holding strong in 4th and 5th. Mustache, after losing P2 to Wojtek in the first race, the same thing has happened again, but this time he has not got back and through as of yet, and that is going to hurt the Frenchman. It might be great for Scott Holmes. He might be able to pull away and get away if his pace is good enough versus Wojtek here. As Jensen getting through on Hugo. Hugo's had a I'm not sure what's happened to Hugo ever since that whatever happened with obviously getting overtaken by Marcel and then Enzo Tabini. He's just absolutely fallen down the order. Hopefully someone in the French camp can let us know, is he dealing with a bit of damage right now? Let us know, as we got Hamza and Steven side by side, the Brit and the Pole doing battle, and the Brit squeeze out onto the grass, and that is Dennis Kaminsky getting through up into P10, and honestly I think Steven's going to be very upset with that. We'll take it as he tries to send one back down the inside of Dennis, and that is not going to work out there for him, but he's trying to squeeze his nose in alongside. He's just not going to get the traction he needs to get all the way there on the inside on the Czech driver. Back up towards the front as we're seeing the Brazilians of Davi and Gabriel Quintino doing an absolutely fantastic job in 4th and 5th right now. Mustache holding strong in P3, Wojtek up there in P2, and Scott Holmes doing exactly what he did in the first race and just managing that gap. And here comes Coutinho on Davi. No, he's going to stick in behind. Cameron Dowd's also sticking in behind as we look to see any potential overtakes happen, as I think this could be a potential overtaking opportunity here, as it looks like the Brit of Steven potentially under a little bit of pressure, but also trying to put Dennis under a bit of pressure. He's in a bit of a Czech sandwich right now, as Jensen Rosen has gone on and set the fastest lap of the race thus far, doing what he can, trying to carve his way back through the field. He's currently down in P14, having a bit of a battle here with the Czech of Michael Kuzla as we come through the loop and entry. Will Jensen be able to get this move done with DRS down in towards Brooklands? No, he's going to sit in behind, but back up towards these guys battling for P5. It is Quintino and Dowd still side by side on the exit, and it's going to be Quintino to hold on to that position. The Brazilian defending like an absolute champion against Cameron Dowd here. And of course, Cameron Dowd's actually having to use quite a lot of battery to try and get an overtake done. It's just not worked out for him thus far. And he needs to make sure that he's not going to be under threat from Marcel Vieg in behind. Of course, the pole doing much better on his ERS at the moment. Enzo Tabani there in P8, Hamza in P9. As we got Jensen and Michael Kuza as Jensen there off track. Will he have to get that position back? I think he might have to, but he sends it on the inside anyway. As we looked to the helicopter cam mirrors, we got a little bit of a battle side by side in behind as well between Hugo and Pinto. As we come on to start lap number 5 of 26. Jensen unable to get through on the Czech driver, but he's definitely asking some questions now. Is Jensen Rosen here as his teammate up in 11th place, yet to try and get his way back through on Denis Kaminsky. And of course, Hamza, who has now lost touch with the top 8. Of course, he is on those hard compound tyres. He's doing a good job on the hards as well. Let us just say that. He is doing a very good job on the set of the hard compound tyres. And he is holding position. Will he be able to hold on to a good finishing result, though? That is going to be the question. Right now, in terms of the team that is doing the best right now, it is currently the Brits that are doing the best thus far. Of course, Scott Holmes leading the way, Cameron Dowd in P6, and of course you've got Stephen in P11 with Jensen there in P8. Probably the next best place teams is probably... It's probably the Czech team with Wojtek in P2, and then you got Jean, Michael, and what's called Dennis in 10th, 12th, and 13th, respectfully. Even though there's 2 Brazilian drivers and 2 Polish drivers and 2 French drivers inside the top 10. I'm just looking at the positions. Obviously, with the other 2 Polish drivers being towards the back of the field. Same with the 2 Brazilians and the 2 French drivers as well. It's a long race for them. As Steven tries to get through on Dennis, and he does get through down the inside of Brooklands. But will he have the traction on the outside of left field? Yes, he does. Steven now up into the top 10 for the UK. As he'll now try to go into the back of Hamza and try and get himself up into P9 in this race. Up towards the front though. Scott Holmes doing exactly what he did in the first race and just holds the gap. And now we've got to see Wojtek uses a bit of ERS and the DRS to try and potentially go for an overtake. Not close enough this time around in towards Stowe. We'll have to sit in behind the Brit once again. And you're just seeing the runs that Scott is getting out of these corners. The crucial corners as well. That he is getting the runs out of. It's absolutely fantastic. And he just builds the gap to where it is just manageable for him to just hold on to the race lead. Cameron Dowd there in P6, getting close to the back of Quintino. Sends one down the inside in towards the loop and now through entry, and yeah, he's close, but is he going to have to run now in towards Brooklands? He's in the slipstream. Is he going to try and outbreak and send one around the outside? He is going to go all the way around the outside. He'll turn to the inside for left field. Cameron Dowd is absolutely showcasing a fantastic overtaking maneuver around the Silverstone circuit. That is how you overtake around Silverstone. Smooth, clean, calm, calculated. Cameron Dowd up into P5. Gabriel Quintino down into P6. The Brazilian will have a chance to come back at the Brit on the DRS straight, that is for sure. And we're going to go on board with Quintino to see if he is going to get the run that he needs. And it just doesn't look like he got the run that he would have liked, but he is going to use a bit of battery to close up regardless. But yeah, he's got to hold tight in P6 for the time being. Meanwhile, Stephen on the back of Hamza here for P9. Of course, Stephen, if he can get past Hamza, he might fancy himself to try and pull away from the pole as best as he can, because these tyres now are going to be getting to the point where there's not going to be a huge amount of difference between them at this stage. Obviously, the mediums, they still got a couple of laps of life left in them, to the point where you would think that Stephen, if he does get through, can build a bit of a gap, but he is running out of time to do so, and he has to get through as quickly as possible. Squitino closes up to the back of Cameron Dowd. It's not close enough to make a move though, as Enzo the same with Marcel B in P7. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments in the chat right now, who are you backing to take the victory here? Who are you backing to get the best team result here? Let me know, guys. Let me know in the chat. Will it be Brits taking victory here in Britain? Will it be Viva la France? Will it be the Czechs on top? Will it be the Brazilians' domination? Or will it be the Poles coming through to take the spoils? Let me know, as Stephen looks like he has managed to get through now on Hamza, and let's see if he's going to have the pace on those mediums now to pull away. Of course, we are on lap 9 of 26 now, so I mean, they've done a fair few laps, these mediums. It has taken a while for him to get through, and now I just don't know if he's going to have the tyre life to pull away from the hards enough. I think he's going to tow Hamza along a little bit, and then we'll probably see Hamza's tyres become the better compound, and he'll get back through swiftly and surely. Scott Holmes still managing this race as perfectly as he managed the first race as well. He just gets the runs out of these corners that he just needs. Like, look at this. Gets the run out of Chapel, through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, to make this DRS straight down the hangar straight almost a mute point. Like, Rostech would literally have to drain his battery to try and even go for an overtake. Not even successfully overtake Scott Holmes, but to go for it. As we got the first pit stop coming in, is Davi for Team Brazil into the pits at the end of lap 9. And I think this is going to be for a set of the hard compound tyres to the end. Now this is going to be interesting for Davi down in 15th place, but of course the hard compound tyres, they are going to take a little bit of time to get up to temperature, to grip in, to really start giving themselves some pace. So he could potentially get overcut by a couple of these drivers if they were to come into the pits at the end of this lap. But his tyres will be a little bit more worn in, so maybe he can get himself back into a good position at the end. As you see in he will have the grip, but it's just going to take a little bit for those tyres to just get into that range for him to really get himself going. Hamza back through on Stephen. By the way, in P8 is the pole once again, as mentioned. I think, yeah, the DRS, as well as just having the hard compound tyres at this stage in the race, it's just going to help Hamza massively, as I'm presuming we're going to get a fair few pit stops coming through at the end of this lap to try and cover off the likes of Davi down in 15th place with a lot of clear air, and he is closing in on the guys up ahead. And here we go, into the pit lane comes the likes of, oh, Cameron Dowd's 10-second time penalty, speeding into the pit lane. Cameron Dowd's handed a big blow there with the 10-second time penalty. Gabriel Quintino is loving life right now. Oh no, Marcel is now being held up behind Quintino there, and heartbreak there for him. And I think Jensen also who else got held up? I think someone else also got held up. But yeah, with the restart, these guys have no idea who their teammates are. Cameron Dowds is going to come up behind Davi, so the undercut does work for Davi, getting himself back ahead of Cameron Dowds. But Cameron Dowds now, 3 seconds back, is Enzo Tabeni. But that 10-second time penalty is going to be looming, and also I think Steven may have also picked himself up a 10-second time penalty as well in the process of all this. So the Brits picking up the time penalty here at Silverstone. Not ideal for Team GB at all. The top three though still going strong. Hopefully none of these three will be making the same mistakes into the pit lane, as I'm assuming we will be seeing them coming in this lap. And yep, there they go, all three into the pits. Scott Holmes, Wojtek, Mustache into the pits. No speeding penalties for any of them, as Hugo carries on as well as Hamza. So both of those two are carrying on in this race. And we're going to see where Cameron Dowds is right now. He's coming through the Vale chicane. These guys are still in the pit lane as the undercut worked for the Brit on the top three. I wonder, as we come down the start finish straight, as we come through, look to the left, there they are coming out of the pit lane, and it looks like Cameron Dowds is going to get himself ahead of Wojtek, and he's right in behind his teammate Scott Holmes. Is a Brit 1-2 right now, net position here in Silverstone. Lap 12 of 26, almost at the halfway stage. Is Scott Holmes leading the way. Cameron Dowds in second place with that 10-second time penalty. He will fall well down the order, but he is now effectively a safety net now for Scott Holmes. The rear gunner is there for the Brit, as Cameron Dowds will now be able to back up Scott Holmes and help Team GB get a race win here at Silverstone. As Davi has also managed to get the jump on Mustache here in this race. So Mustache going from a P3 down to a net P5, and it's not ideal for him in that pit stop phase, as he's not only out of range at the guys in front of him, he's under pressure from Enzo Tabini, his teammate, who gets through down the hanger straight. These two are going to have to work together to try and close up. DRS trade one another to close themselves back up to these guys up in front, but they got Steven, who is closing in on him in behind. Of course, his tyres a little bit switched on versus Mustaches, and of course you may back Steven to have the pace over Enzo here, because Enzo right now has been getting closed in by Steven. So Steven has the better pace over Enzo, but Mustache's tyres not quite up to temperature as of yet. I'm sure it will be kicking into gear on this lap, but Steven draining absolutely everything to try and get within DRS range, and he might have just done enough. As long as he gets a good middle sector, he might have just done enough to hold on to DRS on these guys in front. But it's all going to depend on the runs out of these corners, and yet he's teetering on the edge of that 1 second window, which is crucial for him to get in this race. As Jensen trying to close up to Pedro, Obviously, Pedro yet to make a pit stop in this race. Same with Hugo. Same with, Hugo into the pit lane now. Hamza, obviously, starting on the set of hearts, he's going to go a little bit deeper. Pedro, Enzo Sabaton, and Powers all pitting early. Same with Marcel Paps for damage at the start of this race. So they are slightly out of sync, but it's definitely going to be a long race for these guys. And there goes Gabriel Pedro into the pit lane, and that is going to promote several drivers up the order, as Gabriel Quintino there with the fastest lap of the race. He's down in P10 now after what was a horrible pit phase for him, where of course he was held in the pits behind, I believe he was held behind Cameron Dowds in the pit lane, which is unfortunate for him as he drops down the order. Heartbreak for the Brazilian contingent here tonight. But he has Jensen Rosen up ahead of him. The Brit versus Brazil, and it's going to be a very interesting battle this, because effectively what they're doing right now, they are battling for P7, P8 effectively, with the 10-second time penalties of both Cameron Dowds and Steven going to drop themselves down the order. As Enzo and Mustache still working together as a team to try and get within DRS range of the guys up ahead. And it looks like they have just about done that, as well as Enzo DRS trading with Mustache, getting themselves into the DRS train for the race lead. And that is important for these guys. Going to be interesting to see what Hamza can do, because when he pits onto the set in the mediums, he's going to have the pace and the grip on those mediums to try and pick up a fair few positions early on. But it's a case of how far back is he going to fall after his pit phase, because I have a feeling he's going to fall right into this mix down here with the likes of Michael Akuza, Marcel Paps, Jan, Hugo. I think he's going to be in and around amongst these guys down here, and he definitely will have a lot of fun trying to carve his way through the field and maybe get onto the back of this train with Jensen. But to kind of get himself back into this top 7, top 8 fight is going to be mightily difficult for Hamza. But we're going to have to see how he gets on. Lap 15 of 26. The pole of Hamza leading the way ahead of Scott Holmes, the Brit, in second place. In the net race lead he is, with Cameron Dowds, his rear gunner, in P2, but we're a 10-second time penalty. And there is Hamza into the pit. So we're going to get the questions answered now. Where's Hamza going to come out relative to the rest of the field? He is going to be on the set in the mediums to the end, which is going to be mightily helpful for him to carve his way through the field. But it's a case of, will he be able to get himself into a bit of clear air? He's not going to get into that battle. Oh, he's going to come out right in the mixer, and he's going to come out at the back of this train, actually. So there we go. He's not even in the DRS range of this train. So Hamza, with all the work to do now, 3.84 seconds off the back of Marcel Abig in P16. And he is on the medium, so he will close up, but it's going to be a long race for the pole to try and carve his way back into a big position here, as Gabriel Quintino gets through on Jensen Rosen for P8 in this race. And obviously we've got Dennis Kamensky there in P10 also in this battle. These guys 7 seconds off the back of the lead train, which might be enough for Cameron Dowds. Right now it's not enough for Steven there in 7th place, but the gap continues to increase. We could be seeing both of these British drivers able to hold on to a top 7 finish with the 10-second time penalties applied to them. As Hugo and Jan, they're side by side coming through Stowe corner, both off track, contact made, And that is Jan in the wall, out of the race. Will that be a safety car? Yes, it will. Full course safety car. Lap 16 of 26. About to go on to lap 17, sorry. Lap 17 of 26. Will we see anyone coming into the pits? If you're Cameron Dowd, if you're Stephen, if you are any of these guys that have a 10-second time penalty, you would come into the pits right now. Let's have a look at the penalty situation. So there it is. Stephen and Cameron Dowd, the only two guys with a 10-second time penalty. Perfect opportunity to get rid of these time penalties. And of course, you got Gabriel Quintino and Powers with 3 seconds to their name. But absolute heartbreak for Jean, side by side with Hugo, and contact made into the wall goes Jean. Out of the race goes the Czech driver. And this is a big reprieve for not only Powers, who is in the pit lane right now. This is a big reprieve for Marcel Paps as well. 15 laps on those hard compound tyres in P12. He can now get onto a fresh set and try and carve his way through the field. But this is where things are going to get interesting. Everyone's going to be able to save their battery. They're going to be able to get themselves back up to 100%. And now we're going to see who is going to come into the pit lane. Who is going to risk track position for the fresher, grippier tyres. As Jan has left the session. Heartbreak for the Czech driver. Scott is in. Cameron Dowd is in. Wojtek is in. Davi's in. Everyone inside the top 7. Look at this. Steven trying to overtake Mustache into the pit lane. And Enzo with a 10-second time penalty. Davi, Mustache, 10-second time penalty for all these guys. Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, as Dennis 10-second collision with Jensen. Oh, I think potentially Dennis might have tried the same thing as we saw Steven try on Mustache and try to get through. But yeah, in terms of being able to get these positions, very the positions into the pit lane, was it worth it to get yourself 10-second time penalty? I just don't think it is. But Hamza now up into P2, the Polish driver, pitted for his set of mediums. He's not going to go in for another pit stop. He's going to have marginally more wear on those tyres, but only marginal. We're talking maybe 5% at most, which is a decent amount, to be fair, around here at Silverstone. But it's not absolutely diabolical for Hamza. He's in a great position, the Polish man. And what we have now, Cameron Dowd, no 10-second time penalty to his name. Steven, no 10-second time penalty to his name. Jensen, no 10-second time penalty to his name. But we have 10-second time penalties for Davi. 20 seconds for Enzo. Enzo picked up 20 seconds. Mustache with 10 seconds. We got Gabriel Quintino with 3. And then, of course, Powers also with 3. Everyone on a set of mediums now to the end of the race. This is going to be a battle all the way to the end. Right now, in terms of nation in the best position, it is the Brits. Because Cameron Dowd, Jensen 8th, 9th, Stephen in 11th are going to be able to jump themselves ahead of Davi, Enzo and Mustache. And if they can stay within 3 seconds of Quintino, they're going to jump him as well. So they are looking at jumping up to P4, P5 and P7 respectfully. And that is, of course, if Steven's able to get himself through on Michael Kuza. And that is Kaminsky there with a 10-second for ignoring yellow flags as well. Into the pit lane he comes. Heartbreak for him as well. Under safety car conditions. Clearly, I think what's happened there, he's coming to the pit lane. He's been told to get the position back to the cars he's overtaken on his pit lane entry. And he has been absolutely done in by the FIA and the game on this front. But he's put on a set of the soft compound tyres. Very interesting. Now, in terms of pace on the softs, I'm not sure just how long the softs last. Of course, it is lap 19 to 26. You would imagine they get to the end of the race. You would imagine they'd have fairly good grip for like 5 laps. This could be a very good, acute shout from Dennis here. This could be a very good shout from him. We've got to see how that transpires. He's on the set of the softs. He's going to have the ability of potentially getting himself into a fantastic position. Obviously, once time penalties are applied, he will have the grip versus these guys in front of him. And with everyone going to be bunched back up under the safety car, it is going to get spicy in the final stages of this race. Looks like the safety car will stay out for at least another lap, so we'll be going racing for what will appear to be 6 laps of green flag racing remaining. Scott Holmes has led the majority of this race. The only time when he wasn't in the lead was after he made his pit stop, and that was only because Hamza was on an alternative strategy. He has come into the pits under the safety car. He has managed to come back out ahead of Hamza. He has the fresh mediums versus Hamza's slightly worn mediums. Wojtek, though, is going to be looking to try and get through on the Polish driver as quickly as possible. He cannot afford to have Hamza drop away from Scott Holmes in this race and allow Scott Holmes to get clear. And of course, you got Davi, Enzo Tabani, and Mustache, along with Quintino, all with penalties to their name. Going to be hoping that they can finish in a better position than what it would be if the penalties were applied to him right now. It's going to be very difficult for Enzo Tabini to get himself any higher than the back of the field, because 20 seconds is a Herculean amount of time penalties to have applied to you at the end of the race. So Enzo's race here is probably have a bit of fun in the battle to the end, but knowing that you're going to finish towards the back of the field. Mustache and Davi as well, they're probably going to be hoping that the midfield battle like crazy so they can at least get a gap to some of these guys in the midfield and maybe have a top 15, top 12, top 13 finish by the end. Coutinho, obviously with the 3 seconds, he's just going to be looking to try and make sure that he can stay in a top 10 position. That is for sure. And then of course we've got Power stay down in 17th place with a 3-second time penalty. He's just going to be hoping that he can climb up the order as best as possible. As Jensen and Michael Kuza, they're going to be trading positions there. Kuzla, as someone's going to have to tell me if I'm getting the pronunciations absolutely wrong. Safety car is in at the end of this lap. We will have 6 laps of racing to go. Scott Holmes leads the pack. He controls the pace. The virtual Bert Mulder, as he is going to be setting the pace. The restart will come. We will be back to green flag racing. 6 laps until the end of the British Grand Prix. It is a Brit right now in a race winning position. Will it stay that way? Will Hamza put in a fight? Will Wojtek charge his way through? We will find out. The questions will be answered in the final 6 laps as Scott Holmes gets us back to green flag racing. And we are underway once again. Scott Holmes getting a very good restart. But look at that in behind as Davi very on point with his restart as he was almost on the back. Looking for a move on Wojtek. Wojtek now under pressure. Davi on side by side with Wojtek coming through. Turn through the loop and entry. But look at that. Mustache on the inside. Contact made between Davi and Wojtek. And that is Davi falling down the order. Mustache up in the P5. Cameron Dowds and Quintino through in P6 and 7. And it looks like Jensen on the inside of Davi here. Going to try and hold it around the outside for Lovefield. The Brit trying to get himself through up towards the front, unable to do so at this moment in the race. But Cameron Dow's getting past Quintino, getting past Davi. Big for him in this race here. As Enzo Tabini now, the next man to try and get a move down on Hamza. As it looks like Hamza, he is doing exactly what you would think. He's trying to hold on to the back of Scott Holmes as best as possible. But Scott Holmes gets the runs out of these corners that he needs. As you have Rojtek now trying to close back up to Enzo Tabini, try and get the move done to get onto the back of Hamza again to get a move done. And we're going to see if Rojtek is going to be able to get himself back up into a podium position and a possible race winning position. Lap 22 of 26, Scott Holmes leads away. Hamza in second place, Enzo Tabini in P3 with Rojtek in P4. Under pressure here as Cameron Dowds and Mustache side by side. Cameron Dowds tries to look for a better exit, takes a tighter line, a little bit of contact with Gabriel Quintino in behind, but that might just have saved Mustache here, because that little tap right there obviously prevented Cameron Dowds from getting the line that he would have wanted, the traction out of the loop and entry that he would have wanted to get a move done on Mustache. So Cameron Dowds had to settle for P6 for right now. Scott Holmes is building a gap away from Hamza, as Cameron Dowds and Gabriel Quintino battling out. Quintino tries to go side by side with Cameron Dowds in towards Cobbs, unable to do so. So he's going to settle in behind, but maybe if we can get a good run here out of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, he might be able to get a position done on the Brit as we run down in towards Stowe corner. Cameron Dowds goes defensive and holds onto the position, but will Gabriel Quintino for Brazil get the run that he needs? He's looking to the inside of the rail chicane, not going to be alongside into the braking enough, and he's not going to get that position done. But look at the traction he gets out of club. The traction is humongous there for Quintino, as he is all over the back of Cameron Dowds. Stephen and Jensen doing battle in behind, the Brits going side by side in the back, but we are staying on board with this battle with Quintino and Cameron Dowds still side by side. Oh, contact between the pair of them, as I think Cameron Dowds not happy with the contact with Quintino into the corner just before, decides to give him a taste of his own medicine, as Dennis Kaminsky. That right there, I mean, we just saw that from Dennis. That is not what you want to see, because that has triggered another safety car here on lap 23. That right there from Dennis. Like me personally, I am not a fan of that from Dennis. I will just say it right now. I'm not a fan of that. At lap 23, the safety car is out once again. It will pick up the leaders and then it will come in at the end of lap 24. 100%. There is no way we are going to be going lap 25 with the safety car still out. So as Davi is into the pit lane, as is Quintino, as is Powers, as is Hugo there. Obviously, for a set of the soft compound tyres, they should have enough time to get to the back of the field and be on the softs and on the back of the field. Of course, some 10-second time penalties being served there for Davi especially, and he is going to fall down the order a little bit. But a reset time. Lap 24 of 26. Scott Holmes leads away. Hamza in second place. Enzo Tabini in P3. It is the UK ahead of Poland, ahead of France. Then we have the Czech driver of Rojtek in P4. Then we have Mustache for P5 in the French car. Then of course we have Cameron Dowds, Stephen and Jensen. The three Brits line the stern, 6th, 7th, 8th. Then we have Michael Gazella in P9 for the Czech. Marcel Paps P10 for Poland. Gabriel Pinto for Brazil in P11. P12 Marcel Bieg in P12 for the Poles. Enzo Sabaton P13 for Team France. Powers P14 for Poland, the first of the soft runners at the back of the field. Hugo for France in P15. Gabriel Quintino and Davi, and of course Gabriel Pedro, they're 16th, 17th, 18th, the three Brazilians, they're at the back of the field, and I think Pedro might not catch up to the back of the queue, and I think he's going to be the only one, because the other two Brazilians are now on the back of the queue, just as Scott Holmes is about to get himself back underway here. Oh, actually, Pedro looks like he is going to get the restart. He's going to be on the back of these guys, fortunately for him. And now we're back to green flag racing once again here at Silverstone. 2 laps to go. Mustache falling down the order. What has happened to Mustache? And he's in the gravel. Mustache out of 10-second time penalty for that. I don't think that's right there. I think if this was obviously obviously this is a social race, but obviously that would be something that would be immediately removed, in my opinion, as Marcel Paps Jensen and Michael Cruz getting elbows out in that battle for P7, and Jensen might not be very happy with that, because he definitely got shoved off track there. As look at this now with Paps and Cozella as we come through through a woodcut now, as it looks like Paps gonna get ahead, and he is gonna stay ahead. The understeer of the dirt here gonna drag Cozella out wide, and that is gonna allow Pinto there to close up on him. But look at this now. Zella is going to be able to get close to the back of Paps, but he does not get the run he needs. Pinto, though. Pinto could, as Hugo. Oh, contact here in the back. Absolutely. We just jumped on board with that right at the end. We saw Enzo Sabaton and Powers here going absolutely flying across the circuit. DRS has been enabled, the final lap of the race. And Quintino out of the race as well. Enzo Sabaton out of the race. Mustache out of the race. Oh my God, it is absolutely kicked off at the end of this race. There's Wojtek and Cameron Dowds. Cameron Dowds around at Village as he falls down the order. And side by side with Marcel Beeg on exit of... Oh, contact again between the pair of them as they go for synchronized spins. And it's all got a little bit sloppy here on the final lap of the race. Heartbreak for all the drivers out there on track as mistakes are coming into effect now. Cameron Dowds, 3-second time penalty for him. But this man leading the way, Scott Holmes, has not put a foot wrong this entire race. The Brit is going to come through, and he has a 9/10 gap ahead of Hamza. And you would think he's going to be able to hold on to that. Cameron Dowds retires from the race. Heartbreak for the Brit. He was on for a great result, but to a late instance, really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons right there. As Davi picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting with a position being gained. But this man, the Brit, Scott Holmes, for Team UK, is going to win the British Grand Prix in the social race here at the Nations E-League. And it's going to be Hamza for the Polish team, who will be second place with Wojtek there in P3, completing the podium ahead of Stephen in P4 for the UK. Then, of course, he was there in P5, and we will run through the rest of the results momentarily. Colin Mason in the chat saying, "Evening, guys. Good evening, my friend. How are you doing here this fine evening?" Wow. That is all I can say for that, guys, is wow. It got very chaotic and messy at the end of the race. Very, very messy towards the end. But it is the Brit. It is the Brit on the top step of the podium. He took pole position. He took the race victory. And I believe he may have also taken the fastest lap of the race as we have a little look right now. Yes, he did. It is a Grand Slam weekend for Scott Holmes. Pole position, race win, fastest lap. Driver of the day as voted by the in-game fans is Gabriel Pinto. And then, of course, the most overtakes has been done by Hugo here as well. But let's go through the order one more time. It is Scott Holmes, the Brit, taking the race victory ahead of Hamza in second place for the Polish team. Then we got Wojtek in P3 completing the podium for the Czech team. Steve Renier for Team UK in fourth with Kuza there in P5 for the Czech team. Gabriel Pinto, the Brazilian, in P6 with Marcel Paps, the Polish man, in P7. Hugo Fon in P8 for France with Gabriel Pedro in 9th place. Then, of course, we got Marcel Beek, Davi, Enzo, Jensen, Cameron Dowes, Mustache, Quintino, Sabaton, Fares, Kaminsky, and Jan. A lot of DNFs in that race, a lot of chaos at the end. Not what we wanted to see at all in the closing stages. But in terms of what we saw, in terms of the battling on this game, let us talk about this now. It does look like it is much more difficult to follow the car in front, making things difficult to get overtakes done. Obviously, around a track like Silverstone, you got a nice DRS straight in the hangar straight where overtakes can happen. And obviously, you can catch people napping into corners like Village. You can catch people napping into Brooklands and Luffield, for example. And, there's places where you can catch a few people out. Around tracks, similar, very high technical tracks, and that where it's difficult to overtake. Your tracks like, your tracks like Spain, for example. Your tracks like Hungary. Very, very difficult, I'm going to imagine, to get overtakes done on that track, on those tracks. I think a Zandvoort could probably fall into that category as well, where the dirty air effect from the cars in front is going to make it very difficult to overtake. But we saw Scott Holmes able to just manage the gap very well. So strategy is going to come into effect on this game cycle more than ever, in my opinion. And it's all going to be about when you're able to get the overtakes done in the race. It is very exciting. Looking forward to what will happen on this game cycle. Of course, the Nations E-League, this being the first social race on the F1 25 game. So we'll be looking to see what will happen as the game progresses, as the drivers get better understanding of the game as well, with setup strategies, etc. But yeah, towards the end, it got a little bit hectic. Not what we wanted to see, but it was Scott Holmes taking a fantastic victory for the Brits at the British Grand Prix. And with that, guys, I'm very hopeful about what we could see on this game cycle. As a spectator, as a commentator, I am very hopeful of the kind of strategic battles we're going to be seeing in the future, as well as the side-by-side action as well we could be seeing also. It's going to be very entertaining. But for me now, guys, it is the end of the stream. I want to thank every single one of you for tuning in tonight, and of course keep an eye on the EML Twitter. Make sure you guys are keeping up to date with the latest news coming out of the Nations E-League, and making sure you keep your eyes glued to League Racing TV. I have been Michael Edwards, and we will catch you next time we go racing here on League Racing TV. But until then, guys, is goodbye from me. Goodbye.